Is it time to sell Justin Jefferson right now? We're going to get into it along with 8 other things. Here's 9 things we noticed from the NFL's action this week. Let's go. All right, boys, we're back again. It's Mags and James and Ali bringing you 9 things from this last week's NFL action put through a Dynasty Fantasy Football lens. Welcome aboard. Hello, lovely to see you. If you're new here, please consider hitting that lovely like and subscribe button. You will not regret it, I promise you, because we're going to lead you off with great topics like my first one, which is, hey, boys, is Kyler Murray really shit, or am I just like imagining things? Just looking at the form that Kyler Murray was in, and now with Jacoby Brissett coming in. If we look at the 5 weeks of Murray we've had and the 5 weeks of Brissett that we've had, Kyler Murray, and when I say he's really shit, I really mean for your fantasy wide receivers. Is he a bit of an issue here? Because we look at the 5 weeks of Kyler, he produced 1 wide receiver, 1 finish. Jacoby Brissett, he's had 2 wide receiver, 1 finishes, including the wide receiver 1 last week. I mean, Michael Wilson. I mean, honestly, I said in one of my leagues, like, Michael Wilson getting 100 more yards than Justin Herbert was not on my bingo card for this week. But here we are. Like, that's what happened. And I don't know. I'm kind of concerned a little bit for when Kyler comes back. Not necessarily for my Michael Wilson shares, but my Marvin Harrison Jr. shares in particular. Harrison, when he's been on the field with Brissett, significant uptick in his fantasy production. What is worrying, Brissett's got over 600 more passing yards than Kyler Murray in the same amount of games. That is a significant amount. And you think, oh, well, Kyler makes up for it. You know, if you play Kyler Murray, he gets you those rushing yards and those rushing touchdowns. Brissett and Murray have got the same amount of rushing touchdowns, which is, again, kind of a little bit shocking. So we're not going to pitch to each other for every one of our 9 things, but are any alarm bells ringing for Kyler Murray? Maybe they have been for a while, James. I'm not sure. But what do you think? Kyler Murray comes back. He's in the lineup. Are you automatically more worried about Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I don't know if I'm convinced he's going to come back into the lineup for the Cardinals. There's definitely a possibility that he just doesn't. I mean, I think they've won 3 games. So they're 3-7. They were, I think, a bit unlucky at the start of the season when Kyler was playing. I think they lost a few games where they could quite easily have won. They were, one-score games that, just someone dropping the ball on the half-yard line and it running out the end zone. That kind of thing away from winning a game. So it's a little bit unlucky. But I don't know if it's guaranteed. And like I said, it's definitely been better with Brissett as the quarterback. So I would be a little bit worried for those guys. Trey McBride finding the end zone with Brissett throwing the ball. Famously couldn't do that at all last year. It's not been great for Kyler since he's kind of had full seasons back from that injury. I think when he came back straight away, he was fine. But when he's had those full seasons in this new system, in this offense, it hasn't been great. And we've kind of clutched on and held on to it for a bit longer because we know how it can look, but it really hasn't looked like that for a while. So definitely be a bit concerned if I'm in the playoffs and he does come back and I'm starting Marvin Harrison Jr. or Trey McBride. I don't think you can start Michael Wilson unless it's Brissett.
So Ali, do you echo the sentiments from James?
Oh yeah, definitely. For my teams that I've got Trey McBride, I am just praying that it's Jacoby for the rest of the season because it is just absolutely magical, the combination that those two have. I said it 6 months ago, I think, even before the season, that I'm concerned about Kyler, just the downward trajectory, not just in terms of fantasy, but just real life NFL play has just regressed so much in the past 2 or 3 years. Whereas when he first burst onto the scene, he was unbelievable. And this Cardinals team was on the up, but they've just, how many playoff appearances has he had? Has he had any? I can't really recall them, going into the lead of the division or just fighting for that. It just seems like they've had enough of Kyler, and I would not be surprised to see the Cardinals move on from Kyler. I know that they're probably going to take a decent cap hit or at least going to take a look at a rookie quarterback, because I think that they've had enough of him. And yeah, I think it's definitely worrying. And yes, it's not looking good. So long live Jacoby.
Long live Jacoby. I absolutely love that. So that was my first little topic. Just noticing about Kyler again. If you're watching, leave in the comments. You're worried about Kyler Murray? What about, maybe it's some other quarterbacks that you're worried about. Let us know. It'd be great. James, I'm going to pitch it to you. What's the first thing that you noticed from this last week of action?
The first thing I noticed was Sam Darnold is still Sam Darnold, and I think this is one that you'll quite like, Max, because you've been on the anti Sam Darnold train for most of the last year. I'd say obviously everyone was on the anti Sam Darnold train before the last year. Obviously the Seahawks have been one of the best teams in the league, and 2 weeks ago he only needed to throw 12 passes and they won the game. I think it was against the Cardinals, and they had an absolute canter. This week he had to attempt 44 passes because the game was on the line. That translated to 279 yards, but at just 6.3 yards per attempt. And also no touchdowns and 4 interceptions, which is the third time that's happened in Sam Darnold's career. And I was looking at an article from The Athletic by Mike Sando. That's happened 56 times since year 2000. Someone's had 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 3 of them were Sam Darnold, which is more than anyone else, because obviously that's just not something that happens very often. In terms of like the dynasty impact of it, I mean, he's still a quarterback 2/3 for this year, obviously, and probably next year. But it just gives you a reminder that he has that game in him. It's still there. It's not gone. And especially with the Seahawks having such an elite defense, that there really is just this opportunity for him to have a game like this. The thing is that the offense has been so efficient. So even when he was only throwing 12 passes a couple of weeks ago, he was hitting Jackson Smith-Njigba for a 40-yard touchdown, and that saves your fantasy week, even for the quarterback. But if the defense is going to be so good, and if they can get the run game going just a little bit, then he's going to have weeks like this in him. But maybe it will sort of set off some red flags long term for Seattle if this does continue to happen and happens again, because it happened for Darnold at the end of last season as well for the Vikings, not just in the playoffs but in the Week 18 game as well, where I think they needed to win to get the 1 seed and they didn't, and then they got absolutely trashed by the Rams, or Darnold did. I think I'm remembering that right. So yeah, like the Seahawks obviously looked at this season and thought he was the best option available to them, better than Geno. But if their defense is going to be this good, and they've got arguably the best wide receiver in the league at the moment, then they're probably not going to put up with a quarterback that sort of crumbles like this forever. So it's just something to keep an eye on, I guess, because they could easily look at him and look to move on from him, just like the Vikings did, for someone that just isn't going to throw away a game that is on the line like that.
Yeah, I think that's really excellent points. And he could be maybe being bailed out a little bit by the guy that you want to talk about, Ali, which is the aforementioned Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been just phenomenal.
Yeah, he has been absolutely phenomenal. Just the stats that he's accrued the last, all season, to be honest, are incredible. And I think Sam Darnold is partly for that. I think he's played okay, but I think that the old Sam Darnold is clearly still in there. And sort of my leading thought is that Jackson Smith-Njigba is ready to join Jamo Chase into tier 1 in Dynasty. And I think this is maybe a hot take. I don't know, because if you look at Keep Trade Cut, they certainly wouldn't say so, because he's wide receiver 2 now, just behind Jamo Chase, and very much approaching that territory if he carries on his absolute tear. He's had 6 straight weeks now of 20 plus PPR points, which is more than most quarterbacks have had, let alone for a wide receiver, that has Sam Darnold to throw to. He's actually broken a record now, so he's the first player in NFL history to record 75 plus receiving yards in every single game of the season for the first 10 weeks. So
wow, I
think that's just incredible consistency, the floor and the ceiling that he shows. He's the first player to cross 1,000 receiving yards so far. And in fact, I know we spoke about Jonathan Taylor and how far he is ahead. Well, Jackson Smith-Njigba is 238 yards ahead of the second place wide receiver, which is George Pickens. So that's almost like 2 full games worth ahead. And he's on pace for just under 2,000 receiving yards. So we talk about Jonathan Taylor as, offensive player of the year. I think that Jackson Smith-Njigba is every bit, in that category as well, that conversation. And I also thought was quite impressive is the ADOT as well. So on passes of 30 plus yards down the field, Jackson Smith-Njigba registers the second highest catch percentage, which I thought was impressive at 57%. Only George Pickens is ahead, and obviously Dak's a really good deep throw of the ball, and that offensive pairing as well. So I thought that was impressive. It's not just catching at the line of scrimmage, running the ball 10 yards down the field for the first down. He's catching touchdowns and he's catching long passes as well. So that chemistry is there, and just so impressed with JSN. I'm so chuffed with it that he carried on that great form that he showed towards the back end of last year. Obviously, with Darnold, the new quarterback coming in, there was a few question marks. But yeah, he's just absolutely hit it off. And just wanted to quickly throw it back to you boys, because he is now up to wide receiver 2 on KTC. We know they can move their players up and down quite rapidly, quite reactionary. But do you think that's justified? Would you have him in the same tier or just below Jamar Chase? Do you think it's justified that he's above the likes of Puka, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Neighbors, and that lot?
Well, I recently, just coming out soon over on X, if you follow the Dynasty Hotseat, I do a monthly Inferno Index, I've called it, and coming out very soon, the next few days, are my rankings at quarterback and running back and wide receiver. Jackson Smith-Njigba, number 2. And to be honest, I was closer to putting him at 1 than I was to putting him at 3.
Wow.
Like, I think he is really, really solidly in as the second receiver. The only reason that I decided to not put him at 1 is I thought there was a bigger age gap between him and Jamar Chase. Only a 2-year age gap. Like, Jamar Chase came in the league really, really young. And what I really like about Njigba is, if you remember back to when he was drafted, you had Chris Olave, you had Garrett Wilson, you had all these other guys talking about, why are you arguing about which one of us is the best? Jackson Smith-Njigba is the best of all of us. And we're now seeing why all those guys were waxing lyrical, and we're doing the same on this show. He's my number 2 receiver, but he's in the same tier for me as Jamar Chase and nobody else in that tier.
Yeah, I can see it in season as well. Like, that's the price that you're going to have to pay while he's scoring all these points, isn't it? You're not getting him for less than those guys. So yeah, I had an offer for him today from someone, and it was just Ladd McConkey, a first and a second, and it's not really something that you would have considered would be an auto reject a few months ago. So I'm sure Ladd McConkey probably scored more points than him last year. But yeah, during the season, I can't see why you would have him any lower than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to move on then to the main topic of the show, which is the thumbnail, the title of the show, all about Justin Jefferson. We have talked just recently, like, Jackson Smith-Njigba fairly unanimously, it almost looks like now, has overtaken him in terms of dynasty rankings. Justin Jefferson is ranked on Keep Trade Cut, I believe, as the wide receiver 3 or 4 now, if not even lower. My personal rankings, he is ranked as wide receiver 4 behind Chase and JSN, then Puka Nacua in at 3 and Justin Jefferson in at 4. The main reason for that is he's got no chemistry at all with JJ McCarthy. And I think they're going to give McCarthy a little bit of time as well. I can't see them moving off him too quickly. So I think we're going to have to see at least another year here. And it's really not looking good, to the point where you're seeing Jefferson look visibly frustrated on the field with McCarthy, and him not being able to get the right depth on his throws at any time, really, constantly overthrowing him. Jefferson right now, as things stand, he's listed as wide receiver 13. And while, that's not horrendous, this is Justin Jefferson, boys. He should be 1, 2, or 3 at the very, very worst. Wide receiver 13 is really poor for Justin Jefferson. We've never seen him in these kind of depths before. And that, plus the visible frustration, I think it might be time to get out while the getting's good on Justin Jefferson, and using that name, and people be like, oh my God, I'm going to get Justin Jefferson. I tried a sneaky deal tried a sneaky trade offer to see how much value there still is on Justin Jefferson's name. It did not work. I offered it to someone far too clever. Shout out the podfather himself, Kev White, Dynasty Goat, Dynasty Mind. Did not accept my trade offer. I tried to sneak Puka Nacua and a plus on top for Justin Jefferson, and yeah, it didn't fly. I thought, well, maybe it's just me that has Jefferson below Nacua, but it seems to be a consensus thing now. But maybe you listening right now, maybe you can go out and get Puka Nacua for Justin Jefferson. That's certainly a move I'd be making right now for sure. James, we're going to pitch it back to you for the second thing that you noticed coming out of this last week of NFL action.
Yeah, was it just me or did the quarterback suck this week? So I looked at it and all of mine sucked. I had one league. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I was looking at it and there's only 4 quarterbacks that scored over 20 points this week, which is kind of like, I think, in a 4-point passing touchdown league, I think that's like the standard you kind of expect from your quarterback one. And, you know, maybe your second quarterback in a Superflex league, you maybe accept a little bit less than 20 points, but you expect 20 from your big name. It's normally about 10 and 12 on a weekly basis. So those 4 quarterbacks were Josh Allen, Bryce Young, Jacoby Brissett, and Dak Prescott. Obviously, one name that we expect, and obviously Dak Prescott does it all the time. 2 names that we probably didn't expect, and obviously we mentioned Brissett already. But Bryce Young and Brissett needed over 100 passes between them to get that high. I think one of them had 55 and one of them had 45. And quarterbacks that scored under 10 points this week. So I'm not just talking about over 20, under 10. You got Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, as we've already said, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Tua Tagovailoa, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson. Have you started those last 2, who are top 5 quarterbacks on the season in the first 10 weeks, so they were anyway, you probably lost. I actually had a one QB league, where I was trying to decide between the 2 of them. And I think one of the guys played earlier than the other one, and I looked at the scores and I was like, well, I've absolutely messed that one up, haven't I? But they both got like 4 points. So yeah. In reality, though, it's not really much to be worried about. I just thought it was something interesting. I looked back and actually basically 1 week every season, at least for the last 4 years, something like this has happened, where just one random week, just quarterback scoring's down. But it just goes to show why we value those elite quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Jacoby Brissett. He's actually cleared 19.4, so basically 20 points in each of his 5 starts this season. So he's actually one of those who's banging on the door on that number every week. So yeah, maybe if Kyler Murray doesn't come back, he's a sneaky little buy for the end of the season. It's probably going to be too much to pay for him now, and it would have been better if you'd sort of bought him earlier on. But yeah, just thought it was interesting that. Just remember looking at all my teams and seeing 4s and 5s from some of those big names, and it's just something that happens apparently once every 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very very sad in my home, like I mentioned earlier, where I was playing as a guy who had Michael Wilson in his Superflex, and he battered by Justin Herbert. I was just like unbelievable. I could not believe what I was seeing. But you know, it is what it is. Sometimes it happens. You're absolutely right, Jim. So Ali, we'll move on to you now. On the Dynasty Hotseat, we love talking about the Detroit Lions. They're great for fantasy football. So you're gonna take a swing at them now, right?
Yeah. So I just thought that it was interesting, the move that Dan Campbell made to take over the play calling duties a couple of weeks ago for the Lions. And since then, I just thought it'd be interesting to see sort of the difference in what the production was before and after the move. And one person that's really, really benefited from that move is Jameson Williams, someone that as a rookie, absolutely loved Jameson Williams. I thought he was just next level, potentially an elite wide receiver. He was the fastest wide receiver. His time in college was really impressive, and moving to the Lions' explosive offense, I thought it was perfect. And obviously, sometimes when you own Jameson Williams, it can be very, very frustrating. And with Amon-Ra St. Brown open up all the targets, you had Sam Laporta and then the running game as well. Sometimes, he could really disappoint, but he's really sort of turned it around. And, it may be just coincidence for the past 2 weeks, but perhaps it's the start of a trend. And just looking at the stats of the last 2 weeks. So he's recorded 10 receptions to Amon-Ra St. Brown's 7. He's registered 207 receiving yards to Amon-Ra St. Brown's 100 in 2 games. And he scored 2 touchdowns compared to Amon-Ra's 1 touchdown. So he's outscoring him for the first couple of weeks. That could easily flip round, in the next 2 weeks. But I think that he is now permanently going to be a bigger part of that offense, especially when you think about Sam Laporta going to IR. His splits with Laporta in and out of the lineup are really interesting, Williams. So since 2024, the targets per route run is up to 22%, and he's registering 3.2 yards per route run while Sam Laporta is not in the game. So I think that there's potential for him to be a league winner this year. The Lions are in a scrap for the NFC North with the Bears and the Packers. I think they need to win every single game. They've got some really big games coming up. Just look at the last 3 weeks. He's actually the wide receiver 6. He's averaging 20.1 PPR points per game. So he's someone that I've actually gone out and bought today for a team that is in 3rd place and really feel like I could push on and maybe win the championship. So I'm really excited to get Jameson Williams. And yeah, I think this Lions offense and him is going to absolutely feast going forward. So someone I think you can buy that's still not an overpay right now that could potentially be a league winner. So just thought that was really interesting to keep an eye on that throughout the next few games.
I can hear the fans and the audience screaming, Ali. What did you pay for? How did you acquire Jameson Williams? I can hear people typing in the comments. Can you fill us in, please?
I can. So it's part of a bigger trade. So I got Jameson Williams and Kenneth Walker, and I gave up Caleb Johnson. This is obviously to a rebuilder. Matthew Golden, a 26 first. That is the guy. It wasn't my first. The guy is leading the division. It's his first. So it's going to be the 112, 111 range. And then a 26 third and a 27 third. And I got Jameson and Kenneth Walker back.
Yeah. I'll take your side on that one for sure, mate. Definitely. Do you actually see James nodding as well? You agree?
Yeah. Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. The smash. As only the grill can do, getting those deals done. Absolutely love it. So, boys, we're going to move on to one of my favorite games that we often played over on the Fantasy Wildcard channel. It is the return of Are You Better Than a Kicker? So I've looked at the highest performing kicker for fantasy football, which is, well, it's currently a tie between Myers and Dicker the Kicker, but I prefer Dicker the Kicker. Is a fantastic name, so we're going to roll with him. He's currently on 112 fantasy football points for the year. So, boys, my question to you: I'm going to give you one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, and one tight end. You're going to tell me, are they better than a kicker? We're going to roll up first of all with rookie sensation, number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, quarterback, mind you. Should be the highest scorer of all these players. But, boys, who has more fantasy points? Is it Cam Ward or is it Dicker the Kicker? James, we'll go to you first. Who do you think?
Well, the way you've lined it up, I can't go for anything other than Dicker the Kicker. I feel like Ward he's barely got double figures, hasn't he? I don't think he's had any like 15, 20-point games. So I might be spoiling that for Ali a bit. But yeah, I think it's got to be Dicker the Kicker.
You think Dicker the Kicker outscores the number 1 overall pick of last year's draft? Ali, what are you saying? You do also. Dicker. You are both correct. Cam Dicker has got more points. Cam Ward, a measly 92 points on the season so far. Wow. Not even hitting triple digits yet. So the number 1 rookie quarterback couldn't beat a kicker, but surely the number 1 rookie running back, many people's dynasty running back 1 before he even played a snap, Ashton Genty, surely it can beat Dicker the Kicker. James, what do you think?
I'm going to say he has, because I think he had one good game. A couple of touchdowns.
Okay. Ali?
Oh, yeah. I think, I'm going to roll with James. I think it's going to be just.
You boys are 2 for 2. Ashton Genty coming out with 140. So he's cleared him by a good bit, but not as much as you might expect someone of Genty's pedigree to clear a kicker. Moving on to the wide receiver position. Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, who we've spoken about. Now, he has missed some games, so we have to throw that in. But has he performed well enough to be better than Dicker, the kicker? Ali, we'll go to you first this time. We're going to James for the first two. Let's go to you first.
So we're played 11 weeks. He has missed time. So I'm going to say, I know he's quite low down. Is he that low down? Let's go. Yes, he has.
You're
going with Marvin Harrison. James?
Oh, well, I feel like I need to go the other way. I think he's only missed... Has he just missed one game, but they've probably had their bye? I'll go with Dicker. I'll go with Dicker, the kicker.
Ooh. Well, I can tell you this is the closest of all of the matchups here. Dicker, we know, scored 112 fantasy points. Marvin Harrison Jr., 112.5. So, by a half point, Marvin Harrison Jr. defeats the highest scoring kicker. And the last one we're going to go to, you mentioned him a little bit earlier. Sam Laporta from the Detroit Lions. Who's got more points on the year? Is it Dicker or Laporta, Ali?
Laporta has had a big week, I seem to remember, in there. But then most of the year he's been disappointing. And I don't like Sam Laporta, so I'm going to say no. Dicker the kicker.
Well,
for Ali.
I got that one wrong, didn't I? So I need to go the other way around. I'll say Laporta has outscored him.
So Dicker the kicker with 112, Sam Laporta only 106. It is Dicker the kicker taking it over Sam Laporta, who was, let's not forget, tight end 1 for many people only a short while ago. So Dicker the kicker defeating Cam Ward and defeating Sam Laporta as well on the show here. So fantastic run for Dicker the kicker. If you have kickers in your league, do they matter? Who knows? But if you're going to get one, at least get the best one in Dicker the kicker. So, Ali, we're going to pitch it back to you. And I know we've changed the order a little bit here. It's because, guys, James has got another very exciting update on his home league, which we all were on tenterhooks last week. So we're going to save that for the grand finale, of course. So, Ali, we're going to pitch it to you, and you're going to talk about my beloved Kansas City Chiefs.
I wish.
I think that's me.
That's gonna be story time, that one. I'm going to talk about a guy with 4 kids on the way with 4 different mothers. Now, if that's not impressive,
it's Andy Reid, right? It's incredible.
I see the connection. No, this guy, Stephon Diggs, has not only been impressive in the bedroom, he has actually been really really impressive on the NFL field. And yeah, I mean, I sort of got a lot of shares in the offseason of Stephon Diggs, just thinking that he was so cheap and people just didn't want him. But then I thought he has, if he's half healthy, then he's at least going to be the Patriots wide receiver 1. Whether that means he's going to be productive or not, I'm not sure. But his production, his role just seems to be increasing week by week. And whether that's because he's just getting further and further removed from the major injury, the ACL tear that he had last year, or whether it's just that chemistry that he's building with Drake May. He's wide receiver 7 on the year in fantasy points per route run, ahead of Jamar Chase. I mean, that is in itself is really, really impressive. He's one of only 8 wide receivers this season to register 2 yards per route run against both man and zone coverage. So that's really, really impressive. And perhaps what's even most impressive is the fact that he's still producing these numbers now. And he's you can slot him in as a wide receiver 1 in your team without any hesitation now. He's doing it, into his 30s. I think he's age 31. And the fact that he tore his ACL week 8 of last season and he's come back and, he started off fairly slowly, but he's fully up to pace now and just looking really, really impressive. He's now on pace for over 1,000 receiving yards. So, yeah, I just think he's someone that I'm so glad for my competing teams to have someone like Stephon Diggs as like a flex spot, someone that I just do not have to think about. I could just slot him in there and he's producing wide receiver 1 numbers on a weekly basis. And I just want to see if you boys think that he's got a chance to win comeback player of the year. I've seen a couple of articles start to tout it. I thought it's just an interesting one because, for my money, he could be up there. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, Dak Prescott. I don't know who the guys are, the leading contenders, but do you think if he continues this pace that he deserves to be in that conversation?
Yeah, for sure. It's unfortunately for my Scott Fishbowl team, too little too well, not too little too late, but it's a little too late for my Scott Fishbowl. Unfortunately, I think the combo of him and Rashee Rice kind of backfired on me a little bit. It's kind of I'm firing on all cylinders right now, but I'm well out contention, unfortunately. Yeah, Diggs is playing really, really well. I believe on the wildcard he was one of my flag plants for the year. If not, I was certainly banging on about it on the hot seat for months and months. So I'm not too shocked to see him doing so well. I was kind of shocked to see how he started. I was like, what is going? Like, I couldn't quite figure out why he wasn't being targeted. But you're right, Ali. I think that was maybe a bit of the remnants of that injury. So I'm super pleased to see Diggs perform, and if he continues to do like he has been for the next few weeks, I think it'll be a fight between him and Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey's running back 1 at the minute. I think he's overtaking Jonathan Taylor. You might give the nod to CMC, but Diggs has got to be in the contention for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe it's one of those where he's probably not going to win it because like a bigger name is probably going to be trump him at the end. But yeah, it should definitely be in contention at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And now, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. This is now officially time for Kansas City Chief talk and also story time with James, our favorite segment.
Oh dear, you always build me up. Well, actually, what I was going to talk about is how you just need luck in sports, and you definitely need luck in fantasy sports. And obviously, this shouldn't be a surprise, and it's not a new revelation. But I just wanted to talk about the Chiefs for a bit because they've actually, yeah, and I'm coping a bit as a Commanders fan. No, they're actually maybe better this year than they were last year. So another one of those things, stats from the Mike Sando Athletic article. They've scored more points per game. They've sort of had less points scored against them per game. They have a much better turnover margin than they did this time last year. But in 1-score games, they've gone from being undefeated 11-0 to 0-5. So every one of their losses this year has been in a 1-score game. They're 5-5. So obviously those other 5 games is where they're putting up the points and they're shutting out the opposition. But in those close games, basically the voodoo has just run out and they're just having the bounces go the other way. And obviously, this is the Chiefs. They've won the division 9 years in a row. This was supposed to be the 10th year. No one would have sort of backed against that. But it's off the table now, isn't it? There's just no way that they're going to win the division. I think it must be 3 or 4 games back from the Broncos, and they're still behind the Chargers. From 5-5, will they even make the playoffs? I mean, that is just not something that you would even consider. I think they probably will still make the playoffs because I've said that they're not really any worse than they were last year, and they made the Super Bowl last year. But yeah, it's unlikely. Obviously, no home games in the playoffs. So, what does that mean? I think, but next week they've got the Colts, and obviously they've still got to play Broncos and the Chargers again, and they've also got that Texans defense. I've just seen CJ Stroud is ruled out again for another game, by the way, with his concussion. So that's his 3rd game he's going to miss. But I'm not sure when that is. I think it's a couple of weeks away. But maybe Davis Mills is better for the Texans at the moment.
Can't come back to haunt me, surely. I've bigged up Davis Mills for so many years. He can't haunt me now and actually live up to his potential.
But yeah, Sorry, I think I cut out there. Yeah, has anyone noticed who the tight end 3 is on the season? Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce as well. Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, to get to the story time, I wanted to sort of relate this back to fantasy and my home league. Obviously, I spoke about this last week, and that team, the managerless team, essentially has managed to make it 5 wins in a row. He knocked off the team at the top of the league, who had scored 200 points more than anyone else so far this season. He got him on a lucky week. That team had a bad week, scored 90 points. They scored 180 the week before. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. That team, I think, is now 6-5, on the same record as the 4th place team that's in the playoffs. It's a 10-team league. Only 4 of us make the playoffs. So we might be talking about it again next week when they're a top 4 team and they're in the playoffs, and then I have to start thinking about what I do. Do I allow that to happen? Or not?
Have you got to play him?
I think I've played him already. I don't think I've got to play him again before the end of the season. But he beat me. So.
Well, I'm certainly if you can't win that league, James, I'm rooting for the managerless team for sure. That'll be a story, and I guess you'll have to tune in next week, ladies and gentlemen, to hear how that goes. Thank you so much for joining myself and James and Ali. If you've not already, hitting that like and subscribe button as well. Make sure you're checking out all the content on the Dynasty Hotseat, including the all-new Hotseat Devy show with the lads Phil and Jack. They absolutely smashed the first episode. It is a great listen all about the college wide receivers to look out for, so make sure you're checking that out. And stay tuned, of course, for more updates on the worst team ever. And, of course, 9 players coming out that we think are maybe a little bit overrated. We're going to talk about Justin Jefferson again, maybe. Who knows? But thank you so much for joining. James, Ali, cheers as always, boys. I will see you next week for 9 more things that we've learned. Bye.